Well, Stéphane, welcome to the skating lesson. We are huge fans. We're really thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's taken several months to set up this interview, and I think most people think that when you retire from competitive skating, your life is going to get easier, but it seems like you're busier than ever. So what is your life like now? How much time are you choreographing? How much time are you performing? I guess, what is your year like?
Well, as you said, I thought also that after retiring, I would have time to just relax and have time for myself. And actually, since 2010, it's been crazy. I've been very lucky, actually, because right now I'm skating every day with a lot of pleasure, and I'm able to skate in many shows around the world. I love to travel, so it's great to be able to live from my passion and to travel. And then I got to also choreograph for many skaters, and I didn't know before I retired that I would love to choreograph, but since I started, I kind of feel that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I've been coaching now also for more than a year, and it's been a great experience. I really love teaching. I was not very patient as a skater, but now that I need to be patient when I coach, I'm learning, and it's been great.
How often, Stéphane, do you practice now that you're not training full time for the Olympics? How often do you skate yourself?
Well, I try to skate every day. I don't do long sessions, but I try to have one good sessions a day. And if it doesn't happen, I just try to do some off-ice training with core and stretching, or I try to take a ballet class. So every day I try to have a good session for my body and also for my mental. It's important to keep active.
Well, since you've turned professional and been skating in shows, it just seems like your skating has gotten better. We see you posting clips on Instagram of all these triple jumps, combinations. So how is the focus different now that you're in these shows and not competing in the international system? How is that focus in practice?
Well, I think it came also with choreographing and with teaching. As a skater, as a competitive skater, I used to do things very automatic, like with the feelings. Mm-hmm. I was not really thinking about what I was doing. I was just going for it. And now that I need to explain for my kids and to them try to find a way to make it work, I try to be more conscious about what muscle I have to use for that kind of exercise, and then it makes more clear how to do it. And now I feel more comfortable and more conscious, and it's more precise, and I know what I'm doing. And when I was competing, I was just going for it, and I was just a bit more crazy, I think.
Now you understand how to do it a little bit more than just doing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
How much time do you spend working on edges and your turns? Because all of your programs are very complex, I think.
Well, I was very lucky to have probably the best coach in the world. And Peter, my coach, I still see him on the ice when I go practice. And he's such a passionate person. He loves figure skating. And I think his ability to teach basics and to teach the how can I say, the roots of figure skating is so great, and that's why right now I feel so comfortable teaching, because I know what he was telling me when I used to skate. I know it from just my memory, but now I know it from teaching, from the teaching side. So I think it's important for the skater not to only focus on the jumps, but really to focus on the philosophy and the vocabulary of figure skating. Because if you don't have the vocabulary, and if you don't have all the movements that you can do on the ice with your hips, with your knees, with your ankles, and with everything, it's going to be difficult to express yourself with the music, with the technical elements, and with everything that you have to do right now. So I think what you have to learn as a skater is first the basics and all the moves that you can do, and then you can express yourself.
Well, we know that you got involved in skating after following your older sister to the rink. So how popular was skating in Switzerland at the time? Was it on TV a lot? I mean, how familiar were you with skating?
It's actually quite popular in Switzerland. Figure skating is on TV, especially in the winter when you have Europeans and Worlds, Olympics, of course. And I have to say that when I was a child, I was not really interested in sports because I was not interested in, first, I was not interested in sports, in team sports. So it was all about being alone and doing my own thing. And the second thing is that for me, it was not only to be the best, but it was to do something that makes sense to me. And when I first watched figure skating on TV, I realized, wow, this sport is beautiful. It's not only about the score, but it's really about what you have inside. You're showing yourself to the world, and you're expressing the music. You're giving a theme to your performance, and that was very interesting to me, and that's why I started skating. My sister was practicing every day, and I was watching the practice. And of course, in the small part of Switzerland where I grew up, there aren't many boys there. So at the rink where my sister used to skate, there were only girls. And my mom was very afraid that I will start skating. She wanted me to be a hockey player, and she didn't want to ask my father if I can go and skate with my sister. She was too afraid of the reaction. And one day, I think during dinner, I just said, I really want to skate, and I really want to practice with my sister. And my father was probably the first time that he heard that I was willing to skate. And he said, well, if that's what you want to do, you just go for it. And I think my mom, from that moment, she was kind of happy that my father was actually fine with it. And it was great. I mean, it was just, I think, scared of something that we don't know. And then even at school, it was at the beginning maybe strange for the other kids, but then when they saw that every day I was practicing and I was taking it so seriously, they never really laughed at me, and they were fine. So voilà.
When we think of Swiss skaters and everyone in your rink, the one thing that we think about is your spins. We think about Denise Bielmann, Natalie Krieg, Lucinda Roux, so many people from Switzerland. So why the spins? Because you perform all over the world. So what are we not doing? What is it?
What is it in the water that is making?
What are you doing or not? Because we have you to blame for all of these IJS spins that everyone has to do that we can't, but you can.
I have no idea. Actually, it's true that Natalie Krieg and Denise and Lucinda, they were amazing spinners, but I think you can find amazing spinners everywhere in the world. It's
not the same.
I don't know.
The positions, I think too, like Dave said, so many of the positions we see now in the IJS, you came up with. So how did you come up with those positions? Was it just more time spent on spins?
No, actually with my coach Peter, we used to spend some time at the end of the practice looking for new steps and looking for new positions. And I was very creative, and I always came up with some crazy positions and some crazy movements. So he was actually very good at inspiring me, and then he would just open the door and I would just throw myself and try new things and go for it. And so it was a good collaboration, and we still work together, and it feels good to have someone to get so much inspiration and that knows so much about skating.
Well, you talked about, Stéphane, watching skating on TV as a child. So which skaters did you look up to? Whom did you try to emulate?
Oh, I was a fan of all the skaters. I was, and even now, I mean, with last week Grand Prix final, I watched those skaters, and I'm so impressed with all of them. And from the beginning until the end, I think the excitement is so crazy, and it feels great. Of course I have my favorites and I have the ones that I prefer, but I feel like the competition is so intense, and it makes it very exciting.
So who are your favorites?
From the past, well, I
Yeah,
mean,
for the
from
past, yeah, and now, anywhere.
I think when I grew up, I was a big fan of Viktor Petrenko. I was a big fan of course, Kurt Browning. I was a big fan of Ilya Kulik when he had this giraffe costume.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I always loved, admired those great champions. And from now, I have to say that the Japanese team is doing so well. They are so strong. And it's not only about the technique, but I feel like they are skating with their hearts. And all of the Japanese skaters really impressed me this two last seasons.
Mhm. Well, one of the things we learned about you researching is that you can jump and spin in both directions. So, is this something you worked on? Are you always able to do that? I
No,
guess.
I think I found out a bit too late that I started jumping the wrong way.
Oh,
I mean,
is it easier for you to be a lefty?
actually the rotation is quite, it's, I think, easier
Oh,
on the other
wow.
side. Yeah, on the wrong, on the to the right.
The wrong way, those skaters that jump the wrong way.
Can you
Exactly.
write
Yeah.
with both hands, or is this just?
No, with the hands, I'm a disaster with hands. Don't.
Either direction. Either hand.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, but
Okay. Excellent. And the
actually,
other.
it's funny because the first time I tried double axel on the other side, I landed it. It was crazy. It was
And it
one of
just
those days
felt
where,
easy and
yeah, it felt easy, it felt comfortable, and it was one of those days you're like, okay, let's try to jump the other way today. And then I did a single axel and it worked, and then I did a double sow and I did a double toe, and I went and I was able to do until double axel. So it was kind of crazy, and then I think a few years later I had troubles with my triple loop, and my coach said, you know what, maybe you should do the triple loop the other side. Maybe it will be easier for you. And then we, for 1 week, we worked on triple loop the other way, but I was not good at it. So then it was easier on my
the
regular
normal
way.
way. Interesting.
Interesting. Well, one of the first times we saw you skate was in 1997. You performed an exhibition at the World Championships as an
Mhm.
11-year-old. So, how did you get that opportunity, and how nervous were you being that young, skating on such a big stage?
So the Worlds were in Lausanne, which is 45 minutes from where I grew up, and my coach, he was talking to the organization committee, and he said, "Well, Stéphane is a great kid, and he's working well. And I think if you need someone for the exhibition, you should take him." And I was very excited because all of those champions that I was watching on TV, I was able to see them so close. And I remember Ilya Kulik. It was not his best competition, but just seeing him in the dressing room was so impressive. I was so amazed by his charisma, and it was a big inspiration to be able to perform in front of the crowd, but also to be close to the skaters and to feel the atmosphere. It gave me the motivation to work harder and to become a champion.
Well, you became a champion quite quickly. You rose to the ranks. You were at Europeans by 2001 when you were 15. So, what was Peter like as a coach?
He was, like I said, he was the best coach for me, and we had a really a great time together. It was not always perfect. It was I was a wild child, and I had my ups and my downs, but finally, what I can say is that we have the trust that you need between a coach and a skater. And it's not only about the technique, and it's not only about how to plan your skating career, but it's more about the connection that you have with the person, the trust that you have. And when you go on the ice, it's about yourself, but of course you need to have a team around you, and you need to feel that they are all for you and they're all there behind you. And that's what I felt with Peter since the beginning. He knew I was not very patient. He knew I was wild, and he knew it's going to be difficult to control my emotions. But he was always there for me, very patient and quiet.
Well, Stéphane, you were one of the first men to do a consistent quad. How long did it take you to get a quad, and how old were you when you landed your first one?
I remember that after I came back from Salt Lake City Olympics back in 2002, I came back and everybody was talking about the fact that that I was not able to land a triple axel and a quad. I was 16, and then when I hear those things, I'm like, okay, now you're gonna work and work and work until it works.
Yeah.
And I think a few months later, I was able to land the triple axel and the quad, and yeah, I was very motivated, and I'm still am. And every day when I'm going on the ice, I love to do all my triple jumps. I love to land my quad, and I need to feel that my body is able to do it.
Well, it seemed during your career that the quad was a bit more consistent than the triple axel. Why do you think that was? What was the difference between the two for you, and what was the key to landing the triple axel
Well,
successfully?
I have a slow left leg, and the takeoff for me the axle takeoff is very difficult because my left leg is so slow. So I had to work a lot, and I was injured in 2008 at my left leg, and I was not able to do any axles because of that injury. And after a few months where I was completely off, I started working with a physio in Toronto, and she really helped me to get back in shape and to feel stronger. And I'm still working on that leg to make it faster and to make it stronger. But it's a long process. You know, I think I overworked my right leg, and then I had a disbalanced hip position, and from that it was very difficult to get back to a normal. So I'm still working on it, and it feels good. I mean, I'm 30 years old, and I'm still working on my body and on my muscles, and it's great.
We respect that. Yeah, because I think as skaters, we do so much on our right side that left, and we see so many injuries with skaters because of that.
Exactly.
Well, you spoke a little bit earlier about the 2002 Olympics. How important was that event for your career?
It was so important, actually. It was from the 3 Olympics that I participated. It was probably the one that I preferred because it was a new experience for me. It was the first time I was in the United States, and it was just like the big discovery for me. It was something crazy. I have great memories. I remember with Sarah Meyer, we used to just we had the competition probably at the beginning of the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So immediately right after we were done with competing, we were just going to concerts, and we were having fun with other athletes, and we were going to watch competitions, ski jumping, and it was just crazy to see the Olympic spirit. We didn't know what it was, and we just I remember I got my accreditation 1 month before the Olympics. So it was for me a big surprise. I was like a kid in Disneyland.
Those Olympics were remembered for the battle between Plushenko and Yagudin. So what did you learn from watching them at your first Olympics?
I learned, well, I probably learned how to kind of stay in your bubble while you're competing, because you could feel that it was electric between them. It was in the dressing room. If you are not strong, if you don't make yourself into a special state of mind, you can easily collapse. So it was really interesting to see how they behaved. So who's stronger, not on the ice, but already in the dressing room and already in the backstage. It's about how strong you are and how impressive you are, and it's an attitude that you need when you go for a fight, when you go for the Olympic Games, and it was a good lesson, I think, to see this battle.
Well, after that battle, and you talk about getting the quad and the triple axel, you did have a knee injury the next fall. So how did you injure your knee, and how much did that play a part in the next years of your career?
So 2002, I injured my right knee. It was on a landing of a quad. So we were talking about when I landed my first quad, and probably after Salt Lake, I was so motivated that I worked crazy that quad, and one day on a landing, the knee just broke. It was one landing where it was not something that I could feel, oh, maybe it's not so bad. I felt immediately, okay, now I need to go get a surgery. 2 years later, right before the season where I got my first world title, I had an injury on my left knee, and that was different. It was not an accident, but it was more about overworked, and the meniscus in my knee was damaged.
Well, that year after your surgery, you came at the World Championships in Washington, D.C., and you had a standing ovation in the qualifying round, and it looked like you could medal at the event. And then you actually landed your triple axel in the short, only to miss your quad. So at that point, it seemed like you were very, very talented, yet inconsistent. So did you have a feeling of how good you could be at that point and how successful you could be?
I think I was conscious about what I can do, of course, because I was working really hard and I knew what I can do in the practice, and I wanted to show the world what I can do. So I was conscious about that. But then, I mean, sports is something that sometimes you're ready, you're 100% ready, and it doesn't work at the competition. And sometimes the week before the competition, you feel like maybe you should not go because your body is not ready and you're not strong mentally. And then you get to the rink, to the competition, and everything works and it's magical. So you never know. You can be 100% ready and you fail, and sometimes it's just magical.
Did you work on your mental training off the ice?
Not really. I was watching a lot of videos of more of other skaters, other great skaters, and I was probably working mentally while I was watching the other skaters.
Well, that next season, they implemented the international judging system. How did you feel about this new system? Was it something that excited you?
Actually, yes. It was, for me, something new, and I love new challenges. So for me, the new judging system was something to look for and to understand, to adapt, a new wave, a new breath in figure skating. And slowly, I thought that it doesn't make a big difference between the old and the new system, but in some things, I think it's a great thing that you can measure the technical elements, and that's something that I have to say improved the technical content of figure skating.
Do you prefer the new system to the 6-0 system?
I cannot say I prefer. They are. I like the fact that in the old system you were very free in the way you were doing spins and you were doing steps, and that's something that I kind of miss, because right now you can really, it's very obvious what level or what positions and what is going to happen. I mean, when you see those flying sit spins, you know exactly which variations they will do. And when they do the layback spin, you can almost recognize before they do it what they will do. So I have to say that for the technical content, it's great because they push themselves to something incredible. I would love to see something like short program where you have the levels for the spins and for the footwork, and then it's really about how are you able to make all those levels. And in the free program, you just have no levels for spins and for footwork, and then you're really free to shine and to do what you are great for. Yes.
It's interesting.
So, something like that, a mix of both systems actually.
Within the same event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. Well, in 2004 at the World Championships, you had a stunning long program to place fourth overall. Were you at all disappointed with that result, to be so close to the podium but not yet
I
achieve
was
that?
very disappointed. I was very disappointed because I felt, but at the same time, I think it was good that I became fourth because I felt like I did my best, and I was, if I remember correctly, I was doing 3 great programs in this competition, and I was only fourth, so it probably forced me to work even harder, and probably that's why in the next year I was really ready and focused for the World Championship.
Well, that next year, you talk about missing the Grand Prix for your meniscus surgery, but you also began working with Cedric Renaud during that time. So what did you work with that coach with?
Well, I moved during that time. I finished high school and I was starting university here in Lausanne, and I was after the surgery. I was looking for someone to plan my week because it was a new rhythm for me. When I was in high school, I kind of knew. When I was at school, when I was at the rink, I was living at my mom's house and she was cooking for me and everything was set. And then suddenly I got this surgery. After the surgery, I was alone in Lausanne, and I was looking for someone to organize my life, kind of. So Cedric was really, really good because he is from Lausanne, so he was able to connect me with my physical trainer. He was able to connect me with different persons, medical staff here in Lausanne, and yeah, and he gave me a kind of the family I needed, the team I needed to get back in shape.
At the 2005 World Championships, it seemed like you and Yevgeny Plashenko were battling for that title before he withdrew due to an injury. So talk us through winning that first world title. What was that experience like?
I have to say that I was not really conscious about who were my rivals at that World Championship. It was really about I always loved the qualification round because I love free program. It's for me it's good to start with the free program where you have a lot of possibilities, and I usually was doing well during the qualifying round, and then it was all about myself staying where I was. It was not about competing against the others, but it was really, okay, you did a good program, now you have to keep it up and you have to make a good short program, and that was usually a difficult program for me, the short program. So it was a battle between myself, me and myself, and not the others.
What do you hate about the short program?
That's probably the triple axel.
That one element, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, in the short program, you do one mistake and you're out.
Yeah.
In the free program, you do one mistake, but if you have the rest, it compensates. Yes. In the short, you're not allowed to do any mistakes. So I'm more endurant, and I prefer to have more chances to make it work.
How satisfying was it when you finally did win that world title?
I was really excited, especially because a lot of my my colleagues from Switzerland and my family, they all came to Moscow to support me. And finally I was able to win there in Russia. I mean, a country where they have great champions, and I admire Russian skating since ever. So it was great to win in Moscow, and it was especially great to be able to party with all my family, my friends that came, and it felt really, really good. I remember one thing when I was flying from Moscow back to Switzerland. I was looking at the ground, and I was thinking, "Wow, I'm world champion of this world."
Yes. I am the best skater of all of this world.
Yes,
yeah,
all of this world that we're flying over, and it felt
I'm the best.
it felt really, really special.
Oh, that's a nice one. I like that.
Well, you talk about being the best skater in that world. Well, the next season you won the Grand Prix final leading up to the Olympic Games. And obviously that season it was going to come down to you and Plashenko for the Olympic Games. Did you go to Torino to win? What were your goals?
Again, I mean, my knee was also bothering me at the Olympics in Torino, so it was more about me surviving and
just getting through it.
That's why I was in tears on the podium, because I think 1 week before the Olympics, I didn't know if I was going to skate or not, and finally I was there and I was on the podium and I was just in tears.
You got through it. Well, now that you're kind of, years away from that experience, when you look back on it, how do you compare your skating to that of Plashenko's?
Back in 2006?
Yeah, now that you look back on it, what strengths do you see in his skating and in your skating at the time as well?
Oh my God, it's a tough question. We have, I think, not only him, but all the skaters from this generation, we had a very strong personality. I mean, if I remember Jeffrey skating, or if I remember Brian skating, we had, all of us, a very, very strong skating in different ways. And that made probably the competition also very interesting, to see all those personalities with different colors, with different spirits, and yeah, I think it was more about the difference between our personalities. And even Evan and Johnny and all of us, we were really like a good generation. I remember thinking, wow, we are probably almost 10 skaters that are competing for a medal. So it was exciting, very exciting.
How satisfied were you with your actual skating at those Olympic Games?
I was disappointed. After my free program, I was very disappointed. I skated, I don't remember if it was first or second in the last group. And I remember just finishing the program and being disappointed about my performance. I went in the dressing room and I was not able to watch the competition because I was too disappointed about myself, and I just sat there for the rest of the competition. And I just remember my coach coming to the dressing room and telling me, "Steph, you have to put your skates on." And I look at him and I don't understand what he's saying. I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Yes, you need to get ready. You put your costume, you put your skates, and you're going on the podium. You're silver medalist at the Olympics." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I was not able to understand what he was
like
saying.
You didn't comprehend.
Yeah, it was just like, that's a really bad joke. And
like, that's not funny right now.
Yeah, it's not funny. Like, and yeah, I mean, that's the Olympics. I mean, you never know what is going to happen. The pressure is on, and until the end of the competition, you don't know what's going to happen.
How bad was the pressure at those Olympics, did you feel?
I felt okay compared to Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Vancouver, I felt much more pressure. Mm-hmm. It was my final fight. So for me, it was a lot of pressure, because I knew before I went to Vancouver, I knew it was my last competition, and that made it kind of.
This matters a little bit more.
Yeah,
than
exactly.
Just the Olympics.
Yeah.
We talk about being in the dressing room in costumes. Well, your free skate to the Four Seasons had a magical zebra with orange and blue, and there was a lot going on, and you were known for costumes that were very ornate, which we actually don't see in your show programs as much. So what was your inspiration for your costumes and your costumes in general when you were competing?
Well, the season before the Olympics, I was listening to many musics. You have to know that I always chose my music. I always chose my costumes. That's why they were completely crazy. But
so what does that say about you, Stéphane?
Yeah, and why aren't they crazy now?
Because they are crazy, but it's more subtle, I think.
A subtle crazy.
Exactly.
Not as in-your-face crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. So I was listening to many musics, and I always loved the Four Seasons. And I thought that's a great piece that I really, really want to skate. And if I ever skate to that piece, it will be at the Olympics. And then, so I first picked the music, and then while I was listening to the music, I was trying to find some inspiration, and I was hearing a horse in the music, a horse running, and that horse transformed. At one point, he transformed into a zebra with with beautiful wings, actually, and he was running on the snow, and he was trying to go back to a warm place, and that's why you had those kind of parrots wings, colored wings, and the zebra, and it was all those imagination.
It was your
and
vision as you heard the music, literally.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Were
So
you drinking wine as you were coming
no,
up?
I was not. I was not.
It's actually like how, well, many skaters,
I
Stéphane,
don't need that.
you're lucky that way. Well, many skaters, Stéphane, after the Olympics, they're just exhausted, and going to Worlds is so difficult. But you went on and skated very, very well. How tough was that for you to go on to the World Championships?
After Torino, I went on tour with Art on Ice, and we had a lot of shows, and I was not really planning on competing at Worlds. I just thought, I'm going back home, I'm going to do the tour, and then we'll see. And I didn't even talk to my coach. We just went back we went back to Switzerland after the Olympics, and we didn't see each other. I went to do the shows, and after the shows, I felt really strong. Actually, I think doing the shows made me even stronger, and to be around all those skaters, to have the pressure coming down, and being in a good atmosphere made me want to go to the Worlds, and with actually a pretty good shape. I was in good shape, and I went back in Geneva with Peter. The first day I told him, you know what, we are going to Worlds because I feel great, and the tour was long, it was many shows, it was a lot of parties, but I'm ready.
It reinvigorated you.
Yeah, completely, yes.
Well, after Worlds, you had 2 world titles, an Olympic silver medal. What made you decide to continue competing at that point?
I think after Calgary, I didn't really question myself. Maybe I didn't take the time to think about the next step. I just went on and I practiced, and then it started to be a little bit difficult to see where I was going, because when you have all this happening and then you don't know what's next, it makes the challenge difficult. I always needed a challenge, and I was not asking myself, what's the challenge now?
Needed something to work towards.
But next season, you did withdraw from NHK and then from Europeans, citing burnout. So how tough is it to compete after those Olympics, and what motivated you to keep going at that point?
I think I was very motivated because I was working on a new program, the flamenco program, which was a very, very difficult program. And I think that I came back because that was my challenge. The challenge was not to compete for a gold medal, but it was to compete to make to show a different approach in my skating, to show that the crazy ideas became more precise and more artistic, more coherent. I don't know.
Coherent, yeah.
Coherent, exactly. And I think I wanted to show that side of me, and that was my challenge for the Worlds in Japan. And I was really happy I made the decision to go and to compete. And actually, I feel like this program is really special. I would love to skate it again sometime. 10 years later, I'm not a new person, but I'm more experienced, and I would love to go back to this program and to refeel what this program feels like.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I think we would all enjoy
Yes.
that.
Okay, so I'll
So
try
you were
to
doing
think
it,
about.
announcing it on the skating lesson.
Yes.
This will happen.
Well,
Okay, I'll start to practice because there were many jumps in this program. It was a free program, so
Honey, if anyone can do it, it's you.
okay,
both
start
directions.
practicing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know
that's
if I don't know if I fit in the costume.
Oh, you will. You're good.
you
We'll
could have
see.
new ideas for a costume. You know, you
Yes.
could.
No,
Yeah.
come on, it was such a beautiful costume. I want to wear that costume. I'll try it. I'll try it
I have
when
faith
we're
in you,
done with the
Stefan.
interview.
Just a
Yes.
couple
I'll
more
my
ballet
closet.
classes, and you'll be fine.
Send us a photo.
Well, that season you created that program with Antonio Naharo. So how did the two of you team up?
We actually went on tour in Japan. We didn't know each other, and he was doing the choreography for the show. I don't remember the name of the show. It was maybe Champions on Ice in Japan, and while we were rehearsing, he suggested that we could work together, and I thought. I always worked with Salome Brunner, and I thought maybe this time I can try something new. So we planned working together, and it was actually a very nice experience to go to Spain to feel the Spanish atmosphere, to understand what is the flamenco. We went to the tablao to see flamenco dancers, and I went to flamenco lessons. It was very interesting. He has his own company, so I was able to see also the show that he creates, and it was a new inspiration for me. So very interesting. I always loved actually to learn from the dancers. It can be classical or contemporary or flamenco. I mean, it's always very interesting to the way they use their bodies and the way they move. So that's one of my inspirations.
Well, that season at Worlds, we saw you struggle in the short program, but skate again a really strong long program to win the bronze medal. How disappointing was that for you to not win a third world title?
I was not disappointed. I was happy with my performance, and as I said, it was not so much about winning another gold medal. It was really about showing the new phase, the new program, new choreography, the next step of my life, actually.
I think you certainly did that. And the next season, you did win the Grand Prix final and were second at Europeans. But at Worlds, we did see you struggle. And you later have mentioned that you were injured at that time. So how did you injure your adductor muscle?
I actually injured myself while I was competing in Gothenburg. I don't remember if it was before the short program or between the short and the long. But while I was stretching in the warm-up area, I felt that something was wrong with my adductor. Immediately, I overstretched it, and since then, it was just not possible to fire up the muscle. And I had also a problem with my blade, and I remember it was actually very funny because as soon as I arrived in Gothenburg, I was not really happy with my sharpening or with the ice. I couldn't really feel the takeoff of the jumps, and I said to my coach, I need a new sharpening. So he went to see the guy that was working at the World Championship, and the guy told him that I cannot sharpen the blades because the blades are twisted. They are not straight.
And you had no idea of this?
And I had no idea, and I was not there. So the guy, he replaced my blades. And
Gave
then
you
he
a completely new pair of blades?
No, the same blade.
Oh, but made it so that it was straight.
He changed the setting of the blade, and he sharpened them. And then Peter got back to me with the skates, and he gives me the skate, and he said, well, he sharpened them, it should be fine. And I go on the ice, and so I'm injured. I have the problem with my adductor, and I feel completely like I don't know how to skate.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that a few months later, my physical trainer, she came to me and she said, there is something that I want to tell you. Peter actually made made something during Gothenburg. I don't know, it was probably even years later.
And she finally told you what happened.
And yes, and I knew like probably 3 or 4 years later what happened in Gothenburg.
Have you spoken to him about it since?
Of course, we joke about it.
It's amazing how that affects you as a skater because you get used to it being one way, and even if it's the better way, it can throw you completely off.
Exactly. And I mean, I understand Peter that he didn't want to
Get
tell
into
me
your head, yeah.
exactly. He didn't want to upset me. I asked for a sharpening, and Peter just gave my skates with the sharpen that I asked, and that's it. But at the end, I think it's always good because I have very strong feelings. It's always good that I know what's
going
happening.
on, as opposed to thinking you're just a horrible skater all of a sudden.
Voilà.
Well, that summer, you moved to briefly train with Galina Zmievskaya and Viktor Petrenko in New Jersey. So what made you decide to train with them?
Again, first of all, I was injured and I was looking for someone to help me with my injury. So, and I was also looking for some new inspiration, and there was nothing bad about the relationship that I had with Peter. I just talked to him and I said that I need some new inspiration. And I went this summer in New Jersey and we worked there with Galina and Victor. And it was actually a really nice time to visit and to practice there. And Johnny was there, and it was actually interesting to have a mate, because in Geneva I was working usually by myself on the ice with other kids from the club, but with no top skaters. So it was a very strange feeling to have a top skater next to me, and practicing together felt good. But I was not able to practice because of my injury, and we were actually, Victor's wife Nina, she was helping me to see doctors and to see physiotherapists in New York and to fix my injury, but it didn't really work. And I stayed a few months there until I decided to stop, because I was not able to practice because of the injury, and I was not able to see any doctor that was really helping. So it was kind of a dead-end road where you have no exit, kind of.
Was that the reason behind your decision to retire at the start of that season?
Exactly. It was just impossible to practice, and I'm 100% person.
Mm-hmm.
So if I cannot practice the way I want, it doesn't make sense for me to practice. And for months, I was just going on the ice trying to do things, and I felt I was not able to do what I wanted. So it was just impossible. I was in pain, and that was not worth it.
So Stéphane, how did you finally heal, and what was that decision to then come back to compete for Vancouver?
So in October 2008, yes, I decided to retire, and I stopped. I completely stopped skating for 2 months. I was not active at all. I wanted to heal, and I wanted to make my injury feel better. In December, I got an offer to make a show, so I started. I think 1 week before the show, I started to skate, kind of, and it felt not so good. And but I kind of enjoyed skating, so I felt okay. Even if my injury is not completely healed, I would love to skate again. I mean, that's what I want. That's what I love, and I cannot live without skating. It's not possible. So after this show, I started to skate a bit more, and I continued to skate in shows, and I was having fun. I was not pushing it too hard, but I was really having fun skating. And that's when I came to Canada for Stars on Ice. And while I was touring, we had a great contact with the physio, Stars on Ice physio. Her name is Marla, and she's married to a Swiss athlete who was a world champion in bobsleigh. And so we had a lot of we had a lot in common. So she knows Switzerland, and she remembered many things in Switzerland. So we kind of talked a lot about that. And she said, "Well, you know what? Come to Toronto, and you can stay at home, and we can work on your hip. It's going to be good. I'm sure that you can be healthy again." And we never talked about competing, and we were just making plans to make my body strong and healthy. And I remember after the tour, we just said, "Okay, so I'll book my flights and I'll come over." And then I stayed for the summer. I was skating a little bit at the cricket club with Brian, and I was seeing Marla every day. We were working so hard on my hip. I had a lot of fun skating, and by the end of the summer during the summer came the question, okay, so what's next now?
Yeah.
Like, now that you're getting better, that your hip is okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I feel like my challenge was always to go until Vancouver, and now that I'm healthy and that I'm able to practice almost the way I want, I think I can give a try and try to go until Vancouver. So I think during that summer I made the decision to come back because I was healthy enough, and I asked my federation, and I asked Peter if it would be okay to come back, and they said of course. So I had to qualify Switzerland for the Olympics. That's why I went to Nebelhorn. So it was quite tight.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very quick because the summer, July, and then end of August, beginning of September, it was already Nebelhorn. So within 2 months, I had to have both programs done and be ready for Nebelhorn. Yeah.
Well, we see a lot of skaters that seem to struggle a bit getting back after they take just a year off after the Olympics. So how difficult is it to get back into competitive rhythm after you're doing shows, not having that pressure, and not competing all of the time?
I think to get back in shape is not too difficult. Mm-hmm. The difficult part is to compete. Mm-hmm. Because you stay in shape when you do shows, and if you practice hard enough every day, you stay in shape. You have all the automatism in your body, and you know how to do things, and you have the experience. But when you're young and when you're in the action, you're very spontaneous, and you just go for it. You're not afraid of doing mistakes, and you're just give it all, and that's something that is very positive for the competition. And I think when you come back, you already have all this experience. You already know how it works, and you're very conscious about everything. So that's sometimes not the best, because then you're kind of hold yourself because you don't want to do any mistakes, and you know where you could do a mistake. And when you're young and when you're fresh and you're there, you don't think about that. You just go for it. You're not afraid of the mistake. You don't even think that you can do mistakes. But after, I think when you come back, you kind of know your weaknesses. You work on them, but that's what I felt. I mean, I knew I was able to do it, but I also felt I know when it can break, when it cannot work the way I want. I'm more conscious about that.
You're thinking more as opposed to just reacting and trusting.
Probably, yes.
Well, that season, you were second at Europeans again. And one of the interesting things about your career is that you have won so many titles, but you never won Europeans. So what is it about that event?
I don't know. I preferred to be world champion than European champion. That's it.
Okay. Good answer.
Good answer.
I like that answer.
And since Switzerland, we are not really in Europe. Like, we are not part of Europe. So I don't know.
Well, in 2010, you spoke that you felt a lot more pressure at the Olympic Games, and you finished just shy of the medals, finishing 4th at the Olympics. So how tough was that?
It was not tough to finish 4th. it was tough to finish my career with that performance. It's not about the way because when I rewatched my skating in Vancouver, I thought, well, the feeling was worse than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt, and I think what makes me sad is that I was not able to skate my last program of my competitive career the way I wanted. I was not free to just skate, and I had this wonderful Traviata, and I really wanted to just skate and let it go and use the walls to enjoy my skating. And I was just holding myself. And that's what I hate to think about when I watch Vancouver free program Olympic, because I was not able to express the way I wanted to skate.
So you
my
felt
program.
restricted.
Yeah. And at the end of the program, I see my eyes, and I see the disappointment and the fact that I was not able to be present.
Have that moment for yourself.
Yeah. And I love to share with the audience. And I felt in Vancouver, I was not able to open myself and to share that moment with the audience. I was just so introverted and into the content and into the jumps that I have to land and not there to shine,
Present.
Well,
but when it's done, it's done.
There's no going back once that music's over, as much as you want to. That was your chance, yeah.
How much more do you prefer performing rather than competing? Do you prefer shows?
I think now that I'm in this period of my life, I really enjoy shows. When I was competing, I really, really, really loved competing. But now I don't see the point for me to compete. And I enjoy skating in shows. I really enjoy pushing myself, performing for the crowd, developing programs to the music that I want to use, and without any restrictions, and that feels good, actually.
How much of the choreography now do you do yourself?
I always work with Salome still now. We work together, and we are a good team, and what we usually do is we put the music and we just skate, we improvise, we are on the ice together, feeling the music, feeling the rhythm, feeling the melody, and we construct the program like that. I mean, it's really a nice collaboration. A lot of the moves come just out of nowhere, and I have some ideas how to do things, and then Salome, she has a very good ear, and she can she understands the music, and she understands my movement, and she knows how to combine them. It's actually great to work with her.
Well, as a choreographer, you actually have choreographed for some of your former competitors. And one of the first programs I think we all remember is when you worked with Daisuke Takahashi. So how did you team up, and what was it like working together?
It was great. I love Daisuke, and he's a wonderful skater with also a great sense of music. I always loved skaters with musicality, and I was very excited to work with him because I could feel what he was doing. I could feel what he wanted to interpret on the music, and actually I was quite impressed because at the beginning we sat down and I asked him, what kind of music do you want? And he had no idea, and I thought that he would come up with like an idea and tell me, I want that music. But no, and then I suggested 3 pieces, and he said, I like all of them. And then I'm like, but how do we do then? If you like the 3 of them? Yes, I mean, and it was I was actually surprised. But then we went on the ice. I put the 3 musics, and we decided immediately, okay, it's going to be this one. I felt that he was feeling comfortable with that music, and he felt he was comfortable with that music. So I think it's really important that you let the skater, as a choreographer, you have to let the skater be who he is or who she is.
Another skater that you've worked with is Elizaveta Tuktumisheva. What was it like working with her, and what are the stories behind her programs?
So I worked with her a long time ago when she was younger, and we worked. I think it was a tango back then, and there she was still. She was very spontaneous. She was doing. I was asking some movements, and she would try to copy them, but still do them like she wanted.
Yeah.
And finally, this year we worked on two programs. The first program was the free program to Per Gunt from Edvard Grieg, and I felt she's improved a lot. She has an attitude. She has very nice arms. She has a very nice expression in her eyes. She became actually a diva, and that's very important to me. I mean, you cannot go on the ice with a pretty face. You just need to go there and to shine and to be a strong person, a strong character. And she is actually, and that's why I decided to make the program to Per Gunt, where she is this woman running for this man, running and running and waiting for him all her life in this slow part where she does her footwork. And she kept a lot of movements, but she also threw a lot of nice movements out for the technique. But
Keep it real, yeah.
I mean, I understand that right now in the new judging system, the most important thing is the jump. If you land your jumps, no matter what you do next to them, you're gonna get your scores. Mm-hmm. So I understand that you have to focus for that. And Mishin, he's really strong with his ideas, and if he thinks that's the way she should jump, then that's it. That's what she should do. We made also another program that she's skating in exhibition. I thought it would be a great short program to I Put a Spell on You from Just Stone and Jeff Beck. Mm-hmm. And but finally she decided to make another short program, and now she's skating to that music as an exhibition. So
one of the things we noticed with Tuktumisheva is that she has worked with Jeff Buttle and David Wilson. You talk about her arms, but you talk about the transitions. So how much of the program would you say is not how it originally was?
I mean, she kept the music.
Okay.
Okay.
She's using the slow part where where we worked a lot on choreography. She kept it, so it's actually, I'm quite happy with that. And for the first part where she has the triple axel and where she has all the big elements, she has to focus on that. So she simplified a lot the first part, and I kind of understand. I mean, if you see what they have to do in those programs, it's important that the first part is kind of focused. So she had to take out a few movements from the first part, and the last part also a bit simplified. But as for the romantic side of Elizaveta in the middle of the program, it's very close to what we worked. So yeah, we'll see how she will develop, because I also think that at the end it's how you perform it and how you interpret what you want to skate and what you want to show. You can choreograph with the best choreographer. At the end, it's you on the ice, and it's you who interpret the music.
Well, you skated with Carolina Costner for many years, and there is some speculation that she may be returning. She said that she would like to return to skating. Do you expect to see her in competition?
I would love to. I would love to. I think she's the most wonderful skater for the last 20 years, and and I remember when we were 14, practicing in Oberstdorf, and we were each other's inspiration. We were motivating each other, pushing them ourselves, and now she also came to Champéry, where I have my skating school, and we worked together on programs, on choreography, and I mean everything what she does, it looks just perfect.
Yes.
She has the best body lines. She understands what is figure skating. She moves just like a ballerina. She's just wonderful, and she takes a lot of dance class. And I think you can totally see that she's not just a skater. She's an artist. She's a real artist, and I would love to see her compete. And I would love to see that judges finally understand what is figure skating.
Mm-hmm. Do you think she could still be competitive? Or
well, look at her. I mean, of course.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, for many years, you were a fan favorite in Yoona Kim's shows in Korea. And Yoona did give a farewell performance. But with the Olympics coming back, do you think there's a chance that Yoona will perform again?
I hope so. You know, one of my favorite skating performance is Yoona's Beyonce, the Fever program, and there is no jump in that program. It's quite it's a simple choreography. It's complicated. It has many moves, but it's simple. But she makes it look so good, and I think she should totally skate, even if she doesn't jump, even if she doesn't spin, but she should just go out there, and she has this fire in her, and she should just skate to show us this fire that she has.
You talked a little bit earlier about watching the Grand Prix final and all of the great performances there. Yuzuru Hanyu has broken world records the last 2 weeks. Do you think he has it in him to continue to elevate the sport for the next 2 years and continue to break his own records?
I think so. I think Yuzuru is very ambitious, and he still has a margin. I mean, he lands quad loop.
I know.
Like it's a single axle. So I think he can definitely beat his records again and again. He's a fighter. He's very strong, and I hope, and I wish him to stay healthy and to continue to skate the way he does. It's so inspiring. I was so impressed with last week's performances.
Well, earlier you mentioned all of the strong personalities that you competed with. So we want to say someone's name and have you tell us what you remember of them as a competitor or anything that just...
The first thing that comes to your mind. This is how we like to end our interviews. So we'll say a name, and then the first word that comes to mind when you think of them.
The first word?
Yes, just the first word.
Okay.
All right, Dave, you can start.
Okay. Evgeny Plushenko.
Hair.
Oh.
Long hair.
Long hair. How about Alexei Yagudin?
Winter program.
Oh, I like that program.
Brian Joubert.
Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Weir.
High heels.
Perfect.
Jeff Buttle.
Oh.
It's a face.
Just a face.
Yeah, it's...
Okay. How about Evan Lysacek?
Mysterious.
How about Daisuke Takahashi?
Passionate.
Carolina Kostner.
Beautiful. Elegance.
Mao Asada.
Chopin.
And our final name, Yoona Kim.
I would say, because... Oh my God, what is that?
Did something make a noise?
No, there is music coming.
Oh! She's having music played for you.
Yoona Kim, I would say fierce.
Oh, fierce. Perfect. Well, Stéphane, thank you so much for coming on the skating lesson and reliving your career with us. We have had so much fun talking to you, and we really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was not able to do the last interview. I was so sick
Oh,
the last time, and I hope we can talk again together.